Colleagues, at this point in time, you have seen a number of apps already in action. So maybe it's a good time for me to give more systematic overview of apps in Supervisely ecosystem. So let's start. A good place to start an overview of the apps available is here. So if we go to ecosystem page, we will see a number of categories which app may belong to. So let's do the first thing first. So let me say what we can do with an app. So evidently we can run each app. And also what we can do, we can view more information regarding the app. So it's very good thing to take a look sometimes into this documentation, because here you will find a lot of examples usually how to use the app and in what settings each specific app is applicable. Okay, another thing that I would like to emphasize here is that for each app you can go to GitHub and see how the app is actually implemented. So currently, all the apps in Supervisely ecosystem are open sourced, and that might be quite convenient, especially for developers, so that they can use these apps as a template for further development. Okay, let me go back and try to go through these categories of apps. And I will start with import category. So there might be apps to import images, videos, point cloud, DICOM. So let's focus on images now. For example, this app allows to import raw images. This specific app import images in Supervisely format. And there are other import options, for example, to import images in YOLO format, images and annotations in YOLO format, Pascal Walk format, and Coco format as well. If I click on videos here, I will see actually the same but for videos. So here is an app that allows me to import raw videos, say videos in Supervisely format, and so on. The same will be applicable for point cloud data. So import point clouds app, import point cloud episodes, as well as some popular format like import Kitty 360. And the same works for DICOM. Let me also say that this is not the only place from which you can view and run apps. Sometimes for various categories we can create some standalone pages. Like for example, if we go here to import page, we'll see like the most recently used import apps. We will also see some essential apps that kind of most popular, and we will also see all the apps that are related to that helps us to import images. If we click on sample project, we will see some annotated images that you can import straight away. The same will work for videos and point cloud data and for DICOM data. So my point is that there might be alternative pages or alternative groupings of the apps, and but like the most general catalog is here. Let's move on to export apps. It's quite similar. So you can use you can export images in Supervisely format, you can export images as masks, or in other popular formats like Coco, Pascal Walk, Cityscapes. You may want to do something more specific, maybe you just want to export metadata. Let's move on to neural networks. And here in this category we'll see all the apps that are related to that work with images, that utilizes neural network in some way, and those images might might be further decomposed depending on the task that specific app solves. For example, those apps are applicable to object detection task. Sometimes there are also like complementary apps. For example, this object detection metrics app that allows to visualize and analyze the results of detection model. Okay, there are apps that allows us to work with semantic segmentation task. And when I say to work with, I essentially mean either take predictions from some pre-trained or available models in general, or train models. The same for instance segmentation, classification, interactive segmentation. Those are the smart tools. And also there are some models that there are some apps and models that we can use when we work with videos. So those are just some examples. We also have like a separate standalone page for neural network apps. And I like this decomposition here because it further decomposes the apps in neural network category. So one thing to notice here is that, say, if I pick, I don't know, say semantic segmentation, I will see that there are a number of servant apps, 2 servant apps for semantic segmentation task, which actually allows us to deploy models, to deploy available models. There are training apps that allows us to train models, and there are also inference interfaces that works on top of deployed models. So quite standard pattern. We use some servant app to deploy the model, and then we use one of the inference interfaces to communicate the model with the model and take predictions from the model. And there are some complementary apps also. So, and if we keep scrolling down here and keep investigating various tasks, we will see this pattern like servant apps, training apps, and inference interfaces, and some complementary apps as well. So let me just probably say that we also support classification on images, interactive segmentation, metric learning apps. When it comes to video, actually the point is that if we train a model on images, we can apply this model to process videos as well. That's why you will see some apps here that also included in category of images. Yeah, I encourage you to walk through that and to investigate more here. So for point clouds, we also have some models that allows us to deploy the model, to train the models, and to and some inference interface that you can use to take predictions from the models. Okay, so let's move on. Let's go back to this ecosystem page, and the next category here is labeling. So what we mean here by saying labeling, it's essentially related to the cases when an app is built into labeling interface. And for example, you can use some of those. So I think this one allows it is running from this app tab in labeling interface, and it will allow you to apply models right inside labeling interfaces. And this is an example of, and this is actually an example how we can customize labeling interfaces. You can look at the videos to see those apps in action. So another quite interesting apps here might be, say, apps for metric learning, when we integrate metric learning model here to effectively classify product IDs. So that might be extremely useful when we do labeling with thousands of categories. Yet another example, maybe not deep learning related, but it's elastic tool that we integrated, and if you used it before, you will just run it from the app tab, and you can use this elastic functionality just inside labeling interfaces. So in summary, this apps to customize labeling interfaces and add some extra functionality. Sometimes this customization is coupled with deep learning capabilities of the models. And also there are similar scenarios for video labeling and for other modalities. So let's move on and go to next collaboration section. Those are just apps that calculate statistics regarding labeling jobs and the efficiency of labelers. I expect this category, the number of apps in this category will grow over time. Actually, in every category the number of apps will grow. So this is an example of synthetic data apps which allows us to generate label data artificially. This is quite promising, and I show, for example, this flying objects app in the neural network when I do live demo about neural networks. Okay, data operations. It's yet another important category, very useful. Maybe I will just start with, maybe I will go through these subcategories. Say, we might want to do some operations on images with annotated objects, for example, convert class shapes, or to merge classes, or to do some form of sliding window operation on top of either raw or label data, and also be able to reconstruct the sliding windows later if we want, to crop objects and so on. So sometimes we might want to do like cropping operations, resizing, modality transformations. This is quite interesting set of apps because it allows to convert, say, image projects to video projects to image project, and vice versa, and also do some form of transformations between modalities. There are some certain apps that helps with project management, for example, apps that merge data sets. So this is just apps that helps us to artificially create data. We have spoken about that, and this is like ImgaUG is just data augmentation app that actually replicates the functionality of the original repository, original library, but you can use it in a more like with a graphical user interface on top, so it might be a bit more user friendly. There are some operations on videos also. Probably, again, I cannot like explain all of that. So you can, for example, you can change frame rate of the video or take a fragment from a video. That might be useful. To take fragment from the video might be really useful when you like play with long video and you just want to take sample of this video and quickly process that to save time. So there might be some operations on point clouds, for example, and here is an app that convert point clouds project to episodes that might be useful in some cases, especially if we have like huge point clouds. Let me also say that there is a page, there is a kind of alternative grouping of apps that works with data, so data operations page here, which actually shows more or less the same list of apps, but those might be structured in a bit more illustrative way, and some other decompositions might be available here. Some other information. Let me go back and quickly talk about visualization and statistics. So sometimes we want to understand better and learn more about our label data and kind of connect together the statistics and the data itself. I will show some of these apps in the next section in action. But say you may like want to know which objects goes together when it comes to images, and you might want to have some general picture of your data set and the ability to navigate. But it's actually easy to show than to explain at this point. And there are some other apps for other modalities, like, for example, render video labels to P4 just allows to take labeled video project and create video out of that project. Or say we might be interested in detailed statistics regarding our labeled video, we can use this app. Last category here is related to development, and in this live demo I will show this Jupyter Data Science Notebook app that actually allows us to run Jupyter Notebook on top of Supervisely, and this might be quite interesting if we want kind of a quick look at, say, SDK and play around with SDK quickly without doing anything on our desktop and configuring some VS Code or something. Lastly here, let me see if I can find some other things here. So VS Code, it's not like yet released, but soon VS Code will be also available as an app that will actually allows us to create apps very fast right inside web browser. It's actually quite a fascinating topic. So that was quick overview. Let me say a few more words about kind of structure of the apps here. So if we go to start menu and to projects, one thing to notice here is the following. So if we have, say, a project of certain type, say image project, and I click on a context menu, I will see here a number of apps that are applicable to image projects. And when I use Supervisely, I usually prefer to run apps just from here, because I can immediately see what apps I can use for specific project types. So, for example, if I click on video project, I will see a bit different grouping. So there will be a bit less apps that are applicable to video project. But at least you know once you click on a context menu, you know what apps you can use straight away. And the same say for other projects type like point cloud episodes. You can click and see what you can do. So, for example, if you run this app and you have the model deployed, you will process your point cloud data with some models, with the deployed models that will put, say, cuboids on this raw point cloud data. And say last example here. So maybe you want to download the image project, and you will see straight away a number of export apps that allows you to do so. One last thing to show in this overview is yet another grouping of the apps. So, example, if you go to start and app session page, in this any section you will see the list of apps that you run at some point in time. If you go to running apps, you will see a list of apps that are currently running. So, for example, at this moment, I have a Smart Tool running and some YOLO V5 model, and you can stop these apps, for example, run new ones, see logs, and so on. So, in summary, all the apps are aggregated here in ecosystem. There might be some dedicated page for some categories of apps like import or neural networks. Also, it's convenient to run apps from the context menu of the projects, because we will see immediately which apps are applicable to certain project types. And finally, app session page is also quite frequently used because it allows me to manage what apps are running, stop them if necessary. So I think that's it, and see you in the next section.